This video will focus on the concepts of open educational resources and open pedagogy. It will feature selected open educational resources you can use in your research and teaching, and this is a condensed recording of a workshop provided in the spring of 2019 by myself, Stan Trembach, and Jen Mayer as part of the Researcher Series workshops at the University of Northern Colorado Libraries. I will be taking us through the first half of the recording, and Jen will finish with the second half. From this video and the accompanying materials, we hope you will be able to identify some of the benefits, challenges, and myths related to open educational resources and open pedagogy. We also hope that you will be able to identify strategies to locate OER and explore opportunities for using OER and open pedagogy to enhance student learning. So, what are open educational resources, and what is behind the term open access we so often hear? In general, the notion of open access has firmly entered the scholarly discourse across basically every field of knowledge. We all should agree that research and knowledge are at the core of modern society, right? But the way we communicate and disseminate research findings has been compromised by a rather outdated business model requiring that consumers pay for access to the findings. So the ultimate problem here with this arrangement is that research produced as public good is not immediately available to the public that has already paid for it in the first place. And also the digital age makes this mismatch especially glaring, and that's the mismatch between what's possible, an open system for communicating research results to which everyone should be able to contribute, and an aged publishing model that comes with a host of problems like legal, technical, or financial barriers to the unimpeded circulation of knowledge. To combat them, here comes the idea of open access. And there are a number of ways we can define open access and open educational resources, but by and large, those are free and openly licensed educational materials that can be used for teaching, learning, and research, and also other purposes. And examples may include such broad categories of OER as textbooks, lesson plans, Wikipedia entries, text banks, etc., etc., etc. The bottom line is that behind this definition is a simple and powerful idea that the world's knowledge is a public good, and that technology in general and the web in particular offer an unprecedented freedom and an opportunity for everyone to share, use, and reuse knowledge. To make our understanding of open educational resources more systematic, experts at Lumen Learning, which is a Portland-based startup company that offers college students access to open courseware, so they have put together a 5R open course design framework. The terms open educational resources describes any copyrightable work except software where the term open source is used, that is licensed to provide users with free and perpetual permission to engage in these 5R activities. Number one is retaining content, or the right to make, own, and control copies of the content, such as downloading, duplicating, storing, and managing those. Number two is the right to reuse the content, or the right to use the content in a wide range of ways, for example, in a class, in a study group, on a website, in a video, and so forth. Then comes the right to revisit content. That means to adapt, adjust, modify, or alter the content itself, for example, in translating the content into another language. Then comes the right to remix content, that is to combine the original or revised content with other materials to create something new, like incorporating content into a mashup, for example. And finally, there's a right to redistribute content, that is sharing copies of the original content, your revisions, or your remixes with others, with a purpose to give a copy of the content to a friend, for example. And another point to remember here is that open education is only a part of the larger openness movement that stems from the idea that information and knowledge should be freely available to everyone to use and republish as they wish, without restrictions from copyright, patents, or other mechanisms of control. depending on how far this idea is extended, one is likely to encounter the notions of open data, open science, or even open world, and it encompasses practices such as publishing open research, campaigning for open access, encouraging open notebook science, and generally making barrier-free communication of scientific knowledge possible. So next we're going to talk about open licensing for a second. As you may guess, licensing is the backbone of OER because it gives the permissions for the 5 R's that we just described in a previous slide. And Creative Commons is the prominent licensing mechanism where the creator himself or herself has the right to choose an appropriate license for their needs. So CC BY is the most liberal type of licensing, and that's a license that enables free distribution of an otherwise copyrighted work. A Creative Commons license is used when an author wants to give other people the right to share, use, and build upon a work that he or she has created. CC BY and CND is the most restrictive type of licensing, on the other hand, and it simply means that you may copy and redistribute the material in any medium or format, but you may not use that material for commercial purposes, and also no derivatives. ND means that if you remix, transform, or build upon the material, you may not distribute the modified material. Here on this slide you see a reference to the Creative Commons License Chooser. That's a website that is a useful tool which helps guide your preferences. It has also some images and useful widgets as well. We should note that there are also other types of open licenses like GNU collection of computer software for open software, and we encourage you to explore them on your own as your time allows. As you may imagine, educational materials are often being held captive by legacy publishing models, and as we alluded to in previous slides. Textbook prices have continued to rise rapidly in recent years, leaving too many students without access to the required materials for research and study. On the global level, we can find a lot of interesting OER projects, and there's an OER world map site which shows literally a world map of current OER projects, and this underscores the beauty of open access movement that's available for worldwide sharing. In the US, there's been many approaches, including individual classes, large enrollment courses, fully open degree pathways, Z degrees, and so on and so forth. And here we provide access to state programs on OER, community colleges, and many others. We would like to focus on the state of Colorado as well, where the work of the Colorado Department of Higher Education OER Council has been notable. And I'm pleased to share with you that Helen Reed, Dean of the University Libraries, is a member of the council. And recently they've earmarked $650,000 to provide grants and support for various OER initiatives. On the university level, right here at UNC, we have an OER committee with a variety of campus-wide representations. And the committee's charge is to research the best models to support OER adoption moving forward. We've also recently received a grant from the state of Colorado to review open textbooks and adopt and adapt OER into a course. There are a number of notable OER champion faculty at UNC, including Travis Boyce from Africana Studies, Drs. Kathy O'Neill and Madeline Millian from the College of Educational Behavioral Sciences. They are the co-editors and the co-founders of JERI, the Journal of Education Research and Innovation. And also we have to mention Dr. Oscar Levin, who has recently authored a completely open source math textbook. Next, part of the OER landscape does involve some myths, so we'd like us to talk about those for a few minutes. The first myth is that Free automatically means open. No, that's not so. Remember the Creative Commons licensing and the 5R models of OER use that we've clearly suggested that access does not mean it's openly licensed necessarily. Myth number 2 is that open textbooks lack ancillaries. But the fact is that open textbooks often come with ancillaries, and when they don't, existing OER can provide additional support. We have to mention here that there are many repositories that hold openly licensed materials that can serve as ancillaries, including PowerPoint slides, videos, and simulations, you name it. Recently, more than 200 institutions across the world have launched programs to encourage faculty to make curricular resources openly available. So the next myth is that all OER are created digital. But the reality is that OER takes many formats, including print, digital audio, and more. Yes, it's true that most OER start out as digital, but they can be used in a wide variety of formats for many different devices. For example, an open textbook can be printed, read on a screen, or heard through text-to-speech technology. The next myth is that OER automatically means poor quality of the resource or questionable quality of the material. But again, the reality here is that OER can be produced to the same quality standards as textbooks, and faculty reviews that help to ensure quality are available on many platforms nowadays. Then there's a myth that we want to demystify here, is that a lot of OERs are not sustainable. Well, the truth is that models are evolving right now to support the sustainability of open educational resources, and grants are very helpful in this regard. They're also built-in models that often get acknowledged by institutions in their tenure and promotion process for faculty. And finally, we would be remiss if we didn't mention this myth that okay, there's a belief that my institution is not ready for OER, but the fact is that any institution can start with small steps toward OER adoption that make an impact for students. For instance, a single faculty member can exercise their academic freedom by choosing to replace traditional resources with OER, whether it's a set of supplementary simulations or an entire textbook. In some cases, faculty members may be using OER without even knowing it. For example, many YouTube videos and Flickr images are openly licensed, and textbooks published by projects like OpenStax are used in literally thousands of institutions. So this is not actually a discussion item, but when you start thinking about how you can use your OER in research and teaching, we would like you to focus on these two questions and keep them in your mind as we go through our presentation. So if you've used OER before, what were those specific ways? And also, what are some of the benefits and challenges of using OER in teaching and research? For our part, we can clearly say that integrating open educational resources into your research and teaching can greatly enrich the academic experience for both faculty and students. As the name suggests, these resources are openly accessible, so students anywhere in the world can access them at any time and as many times as they wish. So OER are also easy to distribute widely with little to no cost. They can be an excellent supplement to regularly used textbooks and lectures, as well as multimedia materials such as videos and the accompanying text. Another benefit of using open education resources is that they may be disseminated rapidly and widely, thus eliminating one issue with textbooks or journals, which may take months or sometimes years to become published. Of course, one cannot overlook the potential of OER as a tool to showcase faculty research interest and expertise. Prospective students and other stakeholders may benefit from this information as well. That could have significant implications for recruitment efforts. And also, last but not least, OER can provide an excellent way for alumni to stay connected to the institution and continue with a program of lifelong learning. Overall, one notable advantage of open educational resources is their non-static nature. Unlike textbooks, OER are amenable to quick improvements and editing by users or through solicitation and incorporation of user feedback. So we would like to finish this point off by suggesting that by their very nature, OER also provide a vehicle to develop in students some vital skills that are necessary for success in the 21st century, such as independent judgment, critical thinking, an analytical mind, ability to work collaboratively with others, acknowledge authority when it comes to information creation and use, and many others. And besides, when engaged in the creation, editing, reuse, and dissemination of OER, students get to own their learning experience. And more importantly, they enter the scholarly conversation by adding their unique experiences and perspectives to the existing learning materials that support the course.
Hi, this is Jen Mayer, and I'm head of Library Research Services at the University of Northern Colorado. I'm also Stan's co-presenter for this workshop, and it's time for part 2. There are many ways to locate and evaluate open educational resources. In fact, there are so many different ways that it can be overwhelming, so I'm going to share a few great starting places with you. The Mason OER MetaFinder, affectionately known as MOM, was created by librarians at George Mason University. This tool searches many OER sites at once. I recommend keeping your search terms simple. As with any searching, try different related search terms. So for example, ESL, English language learning, language acquisition, and so forth. OER Commons is an excellent place to start searching. Again, do a broad search and then limit as you go. The advanced search has many limiters, including by language. The more limiters you place, the smaller your result set will be. Open Textbook Library is fantastic for open textbooks. You can browse or you can use your own search terms. One strength of the OTL platform is the many faculty reviews of the open textbooks on the site. OpenStax is excellent for entry-level textbooks. It has some intermediate textbooks, good for large enrollment classes. There's also a low-cost print option available for students who wish to have that. Feel free to pause the video and try out some of the platforms, or you may know of others to explore. Then reflect on your experience. Were there any challenges, and what did you find? Consider any other observations you made during your searching. One of the ways to approach integrating OER into one's teaching is through the adoption of open education practices, which is under the umbrella of open pedagogy. Open educational practices, or OEP, are a set of activities around the creation, use, and repurposing of open educational resources. Open pedagogy, on the other hand, is a term that is not yet completely defined. One common feature of open pedagogy is connecting the outside world to the educational process in a visible way. Open pedagogy uses available open tools and platforms to create and reuse OER by both instructors and students, which in turn creates an active learning environment. Here are the 8 attributes that Bronwyn Hegarty suggests should be all present in teaching to call this process an open pedagogy. These are all important traits. Some that really resonate with me are trust, and I interpret that to mean to try something new and empower students, connected community, which to me means a classroom that extends beyond one class into the global space, and the learner-generated content, which means more diverse perspectives. Which attributes resonate with you? I do think approaches that adhere to fewer than 8 of these attributes are still connecting the outside world in a meaningful way to education. Raavan DeRosa is a faculty member and a longtime practitioner of open pedagogy. You might want to follow her on social media to catch some of her insights. The examples listed on this slide are just a few of many. sample assignments that involve students using emerging technologies to create learning objects that others can revise and reuse, adding value to these materials beyond the confines of the classroom. What is common for all open pedagogy assignments is that they are renewable assignments that students learn from, build upon that knowledge, create something new, and pass their learning objects on to the following generation of students. Open pedagogy also normalizes participation by populations not typically represented in course materials. This is a crucial point. As we have stated, OER-enabled pedagogy is a set of teaching and learning practices only practical in the context of the 5R licensing permissions characteristic of open educational resources. So some other things students can do in the open pedagogy realm is they can create video tutorials. They can create summaries, whether written or video-based presentations that summarize key aspects of the work being studied in class. They can create worked examples of problems, such as in a math class. Students can connect principles in the class with popular culture. Students may create online games to be played by future learners to help them prepare for or deepen their learning on specific topics. And students can create study materials, notes, quiz question banks, and other study materials to direct other students through readings or lectures. At this point, please feel free to pause the video and consider the prompts on the screen. In sum, working with OER and open pedagogy won't be free of cost. This work takes time, effort, and support. It can be a slow process and challenging, but it can start at a smaller scale. It's your choice how you use OER, if that is your decision. One way to start the conversation is with your department colleagues. So you could discuss high enrollment classes in your department. You could have a conversation around textbooks your colleagues use, what they like and dislike about them, and what resources they may need to transition to an alternate source. There could be a conversation around tenure and promotion and open and OER and so forth. So here at UNC, we recently went through the first round of OER grants to support UNC faculty in the adoption of OER resources, and we hope to offer more grants in the future. In terms of professional development, the COLT conference at CU Boulder is held every summer, and it now features a large OER track of programming. So you can also watch for professional development opportunities through the Colorado Department of Higher Education. Thanks for listening today to our presentation. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. The various links to several of the sources mentioned during this video are available in the YouTube comments section.